Jesus died, and for my sins was crucified. Oh, love such as this, I just can't comprehend. Then I think how he must feel to have suffered through that ordeal. Yet his love has been rejected by so many through the years. I wonder if he ever cries when he thinks of how he bled and died. Does a memory remain? Can he still feel the pain of sin and shame he bore for me? And every time he sees his scars, does this bring a tear into his eyes? When many never serve him, not caring how he loved them, I wonder, does it make him cry? When I think about the blood that Jesus shed through his love, and all the pain that he suffered in dying agony,
at the start, before the beginning of time. With no point of reference, you spoke to the dark and fleshed out the wonder of light. And as you speak, 100 billion galaxies are born. In the vapor of your breath, the planets form. If the stars were made to worship, so will I. I can see your heart in everything you made. Every burning star, a signal fire of grace. If creation sings your praises, so will I. God of your promise, you don't speak in vain, no syllable empty or void. For once you have spoken, all nature and science follow the sound of your voice. And as you speak, 100 billion creatures catch your breath, evolving in pursuit of what you said. If it all reveals your nature, so will I. I can see your heart in everything you say. Every painted sky, a canvas of your grace. If creation still obeys you, so will I. So will I. If the stars were made to worship, so will I. If the mountains bow in reverence, so will I. If the oceans roar your greatness, so will I. For if everything exists to lift you high, so will I. If the wind goes where you'll send it, so will I. If the rocks cry out in silence, so will I. If the sum of all our praises still fall shy, then we'll sing again 100 billion times. God of salvation, you chased out my heart through all of my failure and pride. On a hill you created, the light of the world, abandoned in darkness to die. And as you speak, 100 billion failures disappear. Where you lost your life so I could find it here. If you left the grave behind you, so will I. I can see your heart in everything you've done. Every part designed in a work of art called love. If you gladly chose surrender, so will I. I can see your heart 8 billion different ways. every precious one, a child you died to save. If you gave your life to love them, so will I, like you would again 100 billion times. But what measure could amount to your desire? You're the one who never leaves the one behind. I'm so glad you're the one who never leaves the one behind. And I'll love them like you love them, and so will I.
much more He loves you. In the beginning of time, you were on His mind when He hung the moon.
May feel like the world lays hard on your shoulders, and even your closest friend in life is pulling away. Though you have tried so hard and lost, there is still hope. Just look to the cross. There you will see just how much the Savior really loves you today.
If He hung the moon, I know He will help you. And if He holds the sparrow in flight, He'll hold you too. Consider the lilies of the field, how much more He loves you. In the beginning of time, you were on His mind when He hung the moon. If He hung the moon, I know He will help you. And if He holds the sparrow in flight, He'll hold you too. Consider the lilies of the field, how much more He loves you. In the beginning of time, you were on His mind when He hung the moon. In the beginning of time, you were on His mind when He hung the moon.
Brother Murphy had told Brother Charlie and myself that there was somebody we needed to have come speak. And so I got on the internet, looked up some articles and things, and we got back together and talked and wanted to have you come and speak. But I told Brother Murphy, he's gonna have to introduce you. So
Yeah,
that's-
I didn't want you to do that.
I know you did.
I'm done up here, don't waste the trip. But anyway, we got Brother WT here tonight, his wife Debbie and Bradley and Brenda. We've been friends for years. I met WT about 30 years ago at Mill Creek Park. Me and my family used to camp. And him and another coaching buddy of theirs, Jack Alvarez, they come by. So anyway, that's when I got to meet WT and his wife. And I see him once or twice a year. And I always ask Bradley, I said, how's WT doing? Well, here about 3 months ago, he said, WT's preaching. I said, dude, what? Not that he's not a good Christian man, but I'm going to tell you, if you've ever been around coaches or athletic directors, they don't have time to do nothing else. I'm telling you, that's a full-time job. But Bradley told me some stuff, you know, he'd been to listen to him talk and preach or whatever he does, but it just blessed my soul. And I got to thinking then, I'd like to get him up here. He goes to different churches and different places, and nothing I've heard ain't nothing but good. And I want to listen to him. And I hope everybody gets a blessing out of it. And we got some singing kids here. I don't know if you've noticed it. This church can sing. We got some good kids here, and I hope they get a blessing out of it. And I'm sure they will. Okay. What do you want? You want it down here or up here? Okay. All right. Huh? Oh, I'll get him.
Are they gonna play some?
There's your water.
No, I'm fine.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Need something, let us know.
I'm fine. I think they're gonna play a song. It is well.
And sees that all
Lead me where you want me to go. Say what you want me to say. Lord, use me however you see fit. Thank you for letting me be here with these people. Lord, give me the words that you'd have me speak. Things I ask in your son's name. Amen. I never know what I'm going to say when I get up here. I never write anything down very much, so I can't go by that. And I'll start thinking a couple of days before, and I just start praying about things. Lord, let me know what to say. Lead me where you want me to go. Give me a word that you think people need to hear. But I really never know what I'm going to talk about. I didn't think about playing that song till just before I got up here. The funny thing, I'm going to skip around a little bit tonight. I didn't know if I was talking to kids or church. I started about 3 years ago doing this. And sometimes I go talk to youth groups. Sometimes I go talk to a church. First time I ever went and talked to a church, I guess, was about 2.5 years ago. I just had a transplant, and I was getting better, and they'd heard my story, and I was real emotional that night and got up there, and I was crying. And at the end, did an altar call, and about 15 kids came down and got saved, accepted the Lord. The preacher told me after the thing, he said, if you wouldn't have been crying, there'd have been 25 or 30 came down. So, I don't know. But, no, it's been a very long road, what I've went through. And I can't go through it all tonight, but that song right there, just things like that. I was told we won the state championship this year. I'm going to go a little bit. We won the state championship in football this year. We will win a lot of games. I've coached in 6 state championships. Been very fortunate there at Newton. It's known for football like y'all known for basketball. Really, the only thing I knew about Anacoca, we have a family over there named the Lafettes, and they had a nephew that played here that played at Indiana. I don't know if y'all remember. I remember watching him play at Indiana, and that's what I was kind of knew about Anacoca, kind of like Newton's known for football. I tell people that when I go speak, that was a great thing winning the state championship, but that does not define me. That does not define me. When I leave this world, the Lord's not going to ask me how many games I won. We won a lot of games, but that really don't matter. It really don't matter. My job is more than X and O's. X and O's is the easy part of my job. That's what I always go talk to people about. That's the easy part. My job is more of a counselor. And that's what I do. I counsel. And a weird, funny thing about Newton, I've been there since '91. Well, I'm coaching all the kids' dads. I coach their dads. There's 12 or 14 kids on the state championship team. I coach their fathers. So I have a little bit more credibility with them, and I counsel them. They still come to me. The kids, I think we're going to probably sign 7 kids. We've had 2 offered by Alabama last week. Just in a small community, it's a weird deal. But that is not what's important to me. What's important to me is when those kids come back to me 10 or 15 years from now, what I've instilled in them. What they remember me besides winning and losing. That's what's important. When I see them with their kids, that's what I get a kick out. That means more than me than anything. And I talk to the kids about the Lord. A lot of coaches don't do that. They don't feel comfortable doing that. I think that's what I'm supposed to do. A little story before I get going this year. I saw a story about a coach in up north in South Carolina or Ohio or somewhere. He was being sued by the ACL, was trying to get him fired, and because he was praying with his kids after the game. I don't know if anybody saw that. Well, we always pray before we go out, and then we say the Lord's Prayer after the game and come in. So that hit me, and I think the Lord had me see that for a reason, lay that on my heart. So what I started, and Newton now is a strange place in a ways. After a ball game, most people just talk like Bradley's AD. He'll just talk to his players. Well, at Newton, it's different. The cheerleaders right there, the band, and all the parents. So there might be 500 people on the field when I'm talking to the kids. And it's no place like that. And most places would not want that. And sometimes I don't want that. But so what the Lord laid on my heart, I would start praying. And I would lead the prayer. I would pray. And then we'd go into the Lord's Prayer. I was wanting somebody to say something. Now, this is the way I believe. I'm a coach, and I believe it's time for people to choose up sides and say what you believe. I believe as Christians, we have turned the other cheek too many times. There's certain things I can't not talk about. When I go play, like abortion, I'm very much against it. I'm sorry if I hurt people's feelings. I'll say it wherever I go. I've had a kid that plays for me now, very special to me. His mother almost aborted him when he's been offered by Alabama this week. But the other thing about that, when I had a transplant, he's a kid that pulled my oxygen bottle behind me during games. And I'm very much against that. And I like to speak my mind on things. But I think it's time for people to choose up and say what you believe as a Christian. One thing I always prayed when I would pray after a game is from Ezekiel chapter 22, verse 30. And I'm going to read it to you right here, and this is what I pray. I look for a man among them who would build up the wall, and a man would stand in the gap on behalf of the land. And I remember that from when I was a little kid, the preacher preaching on standing in the gap. And I had the Lord lay that on my heart, stand in the gap. This guy up north was. And so I would preach, I would pray, Lord, raise one of these young men up to stand in the gap. Because guys, all you young guys back there in 10 or 15 years from now, y'all are going to be running this thing. Somebody's going to have to stand in the gap from y'all's group. I believe my generation has let you down. We don't have enough people who want to stand in the gap. And I believe that. I talk to kids all the time, and people would be amazed at how many kids don't have confidence in themselves, or they think they've done something so bad the Lord could never forgive them. And then while you're sitting there in your chair, and I've come to find out it's just not kids that feel that way. I told you I talk to parents. It's amazing how many people, and I want you to think about it while you're sitting there, how many people think they've done something so bad that the Lord cannot forgive you. That's the prince of this world telling you that. But you would not believe how many people believe that. I'm going to always tell them this. Everybody is looking for something. Everybody is looking for something. And the prince of this world will show you what he wants you to see. I look on TV, I see preachers preaching. Just be a good guy. You're going to go to heaven if you're just a good guy. They don't have a cross in their church. That's one of the first things I noticed. How can you have a church and not have a cross in it? I don't understand that. I see kids. I wear a cross around my neck. My grandson was born. I'll always ask kids. I see athletes, pro athletes. That's what drives me crazy. Pro athletes on TV always have a cross. So I'll stop a kid in the hall. Hey, what's that cross mean to you? Is it decoration? I'm looking for one answer. What do you think that answer is? What's the answer it should be? It reminds me of what the Lord did for me on that tree. That's what I'm looking for with those kids when I ask them. And if they don't answer me, that's what I tell them. That should remind you of what the Lord did for you. That's why I wear it. But I don't want people to see it. I just want to know it's there. But people have funny beliefs about things. Very funny beliefs. I always talk to people about this thing called life. I'm always going to talk about life when I go speak. And everybody's fixing to go through life. Every one of you. Kids back there, I never thought about that when I was your age. I was on scholarship till I was 35, 36, and I got sick. Everything was good in my life. I had a good wife, good kids, great job. And then life came along. It's going to hit every one of you one day. Could be your wife, could be your kids. How will you handle it? How will you handle this thing called life when it hits you? I had a hard time at first with that. And most people do. I always talk about all sins are just as bad. I don't think you can rank them. But I think there's one sin for a man that's worse than anything else. And it's the sin of pride. Now, there's two kinds of pride. There's the pride me and Bradley talk to kids about in athletics, getting knocked down and getting up. But that's not the pride I'm talking about. This is the pride that separates you from the Father. And this is worse than a man than anything. I was a guy, I was 6'2", 220, 225. I could fix anything, good shape. I was a fixer. I could handle any problem. Well, it finally come to something I couldn't handle. And what I had to do is get on my knees and lay it at the Lord's feet. But most people, especially men, have a hard time doing that. I will not let you control my life. I do not need you to control my life. I can do this myself. That's the pride I'm talking about. That's the sinful pride of a man that separates you from the Lord. When I say man, I mean women too now. And until a man or a woman can let that go, you're always going to have struggles in this world. Now, just because you're a Christian, I tell kids this, just because you become a Christian does not mean you're not going to have struggles. But you know where to go to lay them at his feet. And I do believe that. I talk to everything. When I talk to can a man lie to himself? Can a man lie to himself? And a woman, not just a man. When it's dark at night, when you're laying in bed, when you're alone, can you lie to yourself? I don't think so. I think a man deep down knows if you're right with the Lord. And you can't fool yourself. And if you're not, your time's wasting. You can put it off, you can fool people, but you can't fool yourself, you cannot fool the Lord. There's two things that happen. My preacher has told me this for years, and it is very true. When you get saved, you inherit two things. You inherit an audience. That's the people you surround yourself with, and they're always looking, do you live the life you profess? And the other thing you inherit is an enemy. And the enemy is in this world, the prince of this world. Because when you become a Christian, now he's got a problem. He's not worried about the ones that aren't Christians. He's already got them. He's worried about you now. And he's always going to put stuff in your mind, just like I told you a while ago. Kids just tell me, Lord, Coach, the Lord can never forgive me. That's not true, but people think that. It's what's been put in their mind. I have some kids that I've coached through the years, and had one write me the letter the other day. And he's not in a good place. He's locked up. And these are kids I try to write when I find out about them. And they can tell me things just like my door's locked. I shut my door and close the door. Kid comes in and nobody knows what we ever talk about. And they know that. I talked to this kid. I wrote him the other day. He said, Coach, I'll pray for you. I'm sorry about the struggles you're going through. He said, you're right. He said, I try hard, Coach, I try hard. I just don't get it. He said, I struggle with my faith every day. And he's locked up in prison. I struggle with my faith every day. I try hard, Coach, I just don't get it. It's probably because I only have to lean on him. I try to lean on the Lord in the hard times. That's another thing I'm going to tell you. The Lord, Jesus, is not a crutch you pull out when times are hard. The Lord is not a crutch. The Lord created you, and I tell kids this all the time. The Lord loves you. If I don't get anything else to you, I want you to know the Lord loves you. He created you to have fellowship with you. He created you in his own image to have fellowship with you. He did not create you to pull him out when times are bad. He wants you to talk to him all the time. Now, one of the things, and I didn't realize this for a long time, the greatest gift I think we've been given is prayer. The greatest gift a man or a woman has ever been given is the gift of prayer. And I tell people that, what, Coach, what do you mean by that? It don't cost you anything. It don't matter if you're rich or poor, black or white, whatever. Everybody's got the same opportunity. Now, people don't know how to pray. Kids don't know about praying. I always wanted the church, when the preacher always wants somebody to pray at the end, my head was down. I always thought those people that could do that, that was a gift. They had those great words, and I can't do that. But what I tell them is, praying is just like me talking to you. That's all praying is. That's all the Lord wants. It's for you to talk to him, just like I'm talking to you. That is pray. I tell people my best praying comes when I'm riding in my truck down the road. You don't have to be in church. You don't have to be in a quiet place. It's better if you're in a quiet place. But praying is the greatest gift you've ever been given. And we don't use it enough. We don't use it enough. I saw on TV, Joey Behar or whatever, thinks you're crazy if the Lord speaks to you. I feel sorry for her. I feel sorry for people that think that way. And I told some kids that the other day, Coach, how's the Lord speak to me? Well, he speaks to you through that book for one reason. That's his word. The other way he will speak to you, if you'll sit and listen and really ask and really seek, that's not a stomach ache you got. That's the Lord speaking to you. Through your heart, through your mind, the Lord will speak to you. I feel sorry for that lady that don't realize that. But how many people did she just lead to hell by telling them that? How many people is the preacher in Houston leading to hell by telling them just be a good guy? You don't have to get on your knees to pray. You don't have to ask God for help. He loves everybody. He does. That's not the only way you get to heaven. I tell people this, and they look at me funny. You know, it says in Romans, you believe in God, believe God's raised, and you're going to be saved. I believe that. This is where it comes a little bit of difference. The devil believes Jesus is the Son of God. You think the devil's going to go to heaven? The devils believe that. The demons believe that. They're not going to heaven. There's a little bit more to it than that. You got to earnestly believe that and earnestly seek him. That's the difference. There's got to be a change. There's got to be a change when you accept the Lord. This young man said, I read my daily bread and Bible almost every morning. I still struggle with the Lord, Coach. If you got your Bible, turn to Matthew 7. And this is what I tell kids and grown-ups. What I'm going to write this young man about. Verse 7 in chapter 7. This is what we're not willing to do. This is what we're not willing to do. Asking will be given to you. Seeking you will find. Knocking, the door will be opened to you. For everyone who asks will receive. He who seeks finds, and to him the door will be opened. That's what Casey has not done. Casey's reading his Bible. Casey's reading this devotional. Casey has not got on his knees and asked, Father, open the door, please. Come into my heart. Not me into your door. Father, come into my heart. That's the difference. Father, come into my heart. That's what Casey has not let himself do yet. And I tell him, I can't do it for you. I can tell you. I can show you where to go. I cannot do it for you. You can't do it for your kids. I've got a son I pray for every day. Good boy. Great guy. I don't know how he is with the Lord. I hate to say that. He's been raised in church his whole life. That don't mean anything. That don't mean anything until he comes to the realization and opens his heart up to the Lord and turns everything over to the Lord. Going to church don't matter. When I grew up, my mother had me in church every time the door was open. I went Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday. I was a Methodist. I grew up, I was the one that lit the candles and put them out. I was an altar boy. I did not grow up as an altar boy. But on Sundays, I was an altar boy. The rest of the time, I was not. I was one of them that could have said, I've done some things so bad I could never be forgiven. Because I thought that way at one time. My father never went to church with me. Ever. I can remember maybe once or twice my whole life, my father went to church with me. My mother, on the other hand, she sang in the choir. She was a choir leader. I sang in the choir. I was an altar boy. I was there every time the door was open. So when I had kids, I was going to take my kids to church. So every time the door was open, I had my kids in church because my father never went to church with me. And that was a good thing, I thought. And it was. I had them in church. But that was for the worst, that was the wrong reason. And when I was about 35, 36, I'd sit back in the back of church and I'd just start crying. My stomach would just be upset. And I'd just cry. And at the time, I didn't know what it was, but I did know what it was. It was the Holy Spirit dealing with me. WT, you were going to church for the wrong reason. You were going to church so people could see you take your kids to church. I was not going to worship the Lord. I was going for the wrong reason. Now, it was a good reason to get my kid in church. But I was not there for me and my soul, if that makes sense to you. That comes to the part where I'm telling you, you've got to open your heart and say, Lord, take over. I lay everything at your feet. You're in control. I'm not in control of this anymore. Father, I can't do this. Please take control, Father. That was the Holy Spirit dealing with me. You ever heard rocks in the beds, Brother Russell? Pray rocks in somebody's bed? Rocks were in my bed. My preacher believes in that. He's an old-timey guy. Rocks were in my bed. I always ask people, what's the Lord mean to you? Really, when you think about it, what does the Lord mean to you? You got to have a personal relationship with the Lord. Can you talk to Him? Are you friends with Him? Are you in a personal relationship with Him? Do you only want Him around when things are bad? You know, He made the same valley, the top and the bottom of it. He made the bad times and He made the good times. Do you praise Him in the good times? We won the state championship this year, and they told me before the playoffs started, nobody knew, and I'd started going down. And I didn't know if I was going to make it. I knew we had a chance to win. And I prayed, Lord, just give me 6 more weeks, please. Father, give me 5 more weeks. We'd win. Please, Father, give me 4 more weeks. I'll do whatever you want me to do, Father. Just give me 3 more weeks. I'm going to give you all the glory, Father. Give me 2 more weeks. Father, I'm going to say your name on TV. Give me 1 more week. We won. The first thing I do at the end of the game, I've been down to prayer. Everybody thought I passed out. They're trying to get me up. I said, get away from me. I'm praying. I was trying to make a deal with God. That was the wrong thing to do, but in my mind, Father, I'll do whatever you want me to do. Lead me where you want me to go. Show me what you would have me to see. A month ago, I was told I only had so many months left to live. Said, Coach, you only got 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, maybe 8. He said, that's probably going to be about it. Well, I know it's not 2 months because it was 2 months ago. So I know I'll beat that. But just like that song right there, one of my high school coaches, it's like a father to me, has always been that guy. I couldn't tell him. I had to get one of my best friend from high school to call him and tell him. I couldn't tell him because I was his son. He never had a kid. I was it. And his wife sent me that song the other night, about 11 o'clock at night. It means a lot to me. But that's how I feel. It's well with my soul. And I talked to people when I went down to the doctor, I knew what they were going to tell me 2 months ago. Because I already knew. And I bought them 3 state championship rings from my doctors. And so when they would come in there, I set them out, and they go, hey, what is that? What is that? And they all 3 wanted to come in and talk to me and tell me, because we've got very close. I'm going to go into this in a minute. So after it was over, they told me they couldn't even look at me. Now, this is a weird situation. One of them's from India, he's a Muslim, and one of them's Jew, and then I'm a Christian. So it's a strange trio right here. But it worked. It worked. And they don't realize this. When I was going through the transplant and things were so bad, I was not supposed to live after the transplant. People would call me from all over the state, and it was unbelievable how many people were praying for me. And I said, don't pray for me, pray for my doctors. And I was in there one day, and they were having to take fluid out of my lungs, and I said, I ain't going to let you see this. He said, Coach, this is fixing to hurt you. I said, you ain't going to hurt me. I ain't going to let you see it hurt. Well, they hit me, and it hit my rib, and I went to my knees. He said, I didn't think it was going to hurt. I said, it didn't. He said, Coach, he said, I'm going to tell you, we've just been shooting in the dark. We didn't know what to do. And right then I knew all the prayers that people had done and prayed for my doctors, I knew what had happened. So I'm a very firm believer in prayer. I know it. And there's how I tell, when you know that you know that you know, there's no other feeling like that. People say, WT, how can you laugh about this? How can you smile? What do you want me to do? I know where I'm going. I know where I'm going. Me and my wife was riding home last night from a friend's house, and we talk about this now. This is more surreal this time. There's more finality to it this time. I told her, I said, Deb, I don't, I figured this out. I don't really want to die. I'm not scared. I just don't want to miss y'all. I don't want to miss things. But I know where I'm going. And we've always had a picture in our house of Jesus hugging somebody. That's my picture in my mind. I know it's going to happen. He's fixing to hug me because of what I told you a while ago. I got rid of that pride. I brought it to the Lord. I leave everything with the Lord. Now, am I saying I'm doing this? Am I trying to make myself out? No. I'm just an ordinary guy. And if I can do it, you can do it. You've got to want to do it. And one of these days you will be brought to that. I always tell people this and they don't understand this. I've been given a very great gift. They say, how do you say that? You've been dealing with death since... Me and death have been staring at each other for a long time. I was diagnosed in 1999 with something that killed Reggie White and Bernie Mac. These people killed them like that. I was living in that since 1999. Now, I had some rough times I would go through. But I do believe this. The Lord was preparing me from all the way back then to what I'm going through now. I had to be prepared because I was not ready. Well, how you say you've got a great gift? I've been given a great gift. I could see what my life meant to people before I died. I could see how I could change a kid's life before I died. And I told them now, I got one lesson left to teach you. What's that? I said, how to live till you die. Where to put your trust till you die. I pray all the time. I pray all day. Just sit by myself. Lord, let me do this the right way. Lord, give me the strength to finish. Give me the strength to do what you want me to do. Lord, don't let me show weakness because somebody's going to see it. That audience I've got that I told you about, they're going to see it. Lord, let me show these kids where to put their strength, where to put their trust, where to put your hope. I've got people all, I've told a couple, I hadn't told many people, so y'all keep this a secret what I told y'all. Not many people in Newton know this yet. And I've told a few of my coaches, and we're planning football season every day. And I had one tell me the other day, he said, Coach, I can't have this conversation with you no more. I said, why? I'm not worried about it. Don't you be worried about it. That's the way I feel. I've been given a great life. The Lord has let me see some tremendous things. I'm a very simple man. I don't have to have a lot of things to be happy. But I have seen things that I would never have got to see if I would not have went through this. I tell people this all the time. I would not change anything since I went through it. I don't want to go through it again, what I went through with the transplant, because it was so painful and sick. I would not change it because I've seen things and learned things I never would have seen and learned. And maybe I've saved. I haven't. Maybe the Lord's used me to save somebody else and to show them how to live and to show them where to put your trust. Maybe that was my purpose. My doctor at MD Anderson, I had to go to St. Luke's, and they told me that news, so I'd go to MD Anderson too. And so I went over there, and me and him said our goodbyes. He said, yeah, we don't need to do this anymore. They stopped all the treatment, said we don't need to do any more to you. And he's upset. And this is the doctor at St. Luke, MD Anderson now. He starts crying. And he said, Coach, I never get like this with any of my patients. He said, because I deal with death so much. He said, I can't get close. He said, but this is different. And I'm going to tell you one in a minute. I said, well, Dr. Lucy said, I don't want you to be upset. I'm not. And he just looked at me and said, You're not? I said, Dr. Lee said, I know where I'm going. And I know something good's going to come out of this. Well, come to find out, this guy's so smart you can't think you can carry on a conversation as a Christian. He said, WT, that's all I wanted to hear you say. He said, but I never get close to my patients like this because I can't. But you'd be amazing. You'd be amazed. You know, when people think the world is all bad and all, there's still a lot of good people. There's a lot of Christians out there. They just don't say it, or they just don't let you know it. They won't be silent. I don't think we can do that. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, I had a transplant 3 years ago, a double lung transplant. I was on the transplant list for 14 months. I'd been sick since 1999, living with this. I had the transplant in 2015. It was all great until they come to the room to get me. When you have a transplant, you have a 50% chance to live and a 50% chance to get off that table. When you go under, you got 50-50, either get up or not get up. So they came to get me, and there it's just you. It's no family, it's just you. So the first thing they do, they wheel me in a room and put me on a table. They strap my legs down. Then they put my arms out, they strap my arms down. What do you think the first thing was to come to my mind? The Passion of the Christ. The movie. Everybody saw the movie? And here I am, knowing the odds. And the only thing that could go through my mind is, WT, what have you done for the Lord? WT, you're asking me to save you. What have you done for me? Time's real right now. Now you're wanting my help. But what have you done for me? I couldn't think of a lot. I was a good guy. It's like that preacher in Houston says, I was a good guy. But WT, what have you done for me? Do you profess you're a Christian? Do you live as a Christian? Do you take care of other people? Wasn't a lot of yeses going on before I went out. I was scared to death. I was scared. Because that's all that kept going through my mind was Jesus laying on that cross. And how many times I had crucified him. Or had to re-crucify him. Because in my mind, every time I did stuff I shouldn't did, said, and I didn't ask forgiveness, I was just re-crucifying him. Because he died for me for no reason. He didn't have to do that. He died for you. Why did he do that? How could God turn his back on his son and let that happen? Could you do that? We couldn't do that. But he did that for us. He did that for me. He did that for you. What's that cross around your neck mean? Can a man lie to himself? He laid on that tree, was raised up on that tree. Can you lie to yourself? Do you really believe he did that? I believe everything in that book. I believe Jonah was in that belly for 3 days. First time somebody asked me to preach, I knew the church close to Newton. I don't need to go preach at that church. Some people know me too much. Well, all week it started hitting. These six will spit you out in that parking lot if you don't go preach. I was like Jonah, I was running. I didn't want to do it. And then all that come back to me. WT, you've told me you'll go where I send you. You'll do what I ask you to do. And you're going to deny me now? After everything I've done for you? When I had the transplant, I was in good shape. I was young. I was 49 at the time. They let me. I was in there for 12 days, and they let me go. It was amazing. That don't happen. I had to live in Houston. I got sick about 3 weeks later. And they had to put me back in the hospital. I was 220. I got down to 143. I got to where I could not walk. My wife had to do everything for me. I was just like an invalid. I could not do anything. When they got me back in the hospital, they could not figure out what was wrong with me. They said, "You've got Crohn's. It just manifested. You've always had it. I didn't think it's some medicine." And they come in there one day and said, "Look, there's this third thing it could be. It's so rare, we've never seen it at St. Luke's. We can only find 14 or 15 cases ever in the country, and we've never seen it. And it won't be that, Coach, but if it is, there's nothing we can do for you." Now, I've been told there's nothing you can do for me more than these fingers I got since 1999. That'll humble you, too. So there's nothing we can do for you. So they come back about a week later. "Coach, it's that third thing." They done let the cat out of the bag. Nothing we can do for you. You live about 280 days, and nobody survived. Nobody's ever survived it. So one of the doctors, Dr. Prulikar, his wife worked at MD Anderson. This disease is called GVHD, graft versus host. It's common in bone marrow cancer patients. But in organ transplants, they had never seen it at MD Anderson either. So when I go over, I asked the doctor, I said, "How much time do I have left? I want to know." He said, "Coach, there's no date on you. We can't tell you." He said, "You're going to be the first one." He said, "You're an experiment." So he said, "I will tell you this, when your white blood count drops, it's over. It's through. There's nothing we can do for it." About 3 weeks later, what would happen? My white blood count dropped. And he done told me there's nothing we can do for you. There's there again. But I survived. So they did these treatments, and I ended up surviving. That disease is gone. That's what me and the doctor talked about the other day. Dr. Lucy, I said, "Something good's going to come out of this." He said, "Well, Coach, I'm going to tell you," he said, "I get calls from all over the country every day how we treated you." Because what they did, they wrote clinicals, and they go to these conferences with me in the clinicals. Because I'm the only one that survived this disease. And now something else is getting me that's not even close to that. So it's a weird deal. I was at a football game 2 years ago. We were fixing to win the state championship again. We got beat right at the end of the game. And this guy comes up to me. He said, "Coach," he was an official. He said, "Coach, one of my officials wants to talk to you. Would you talk to him?" I said, "Yeah." So he comes up to me after the game, before the game, and he said, "Hey, are you Coach Josh?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "How does MD Anderson treat you?" I looked at him because I didn't know who he was. I said, "Oh, they treat me great." I said, "How do you know about me?" He said, "I know everything about you." And I said, "What do you know?" He said, "I know you're the only one." "What do you mean?" He said, "You're the only survivor." He said, "I read the clinicals. I work at MD Anderson." I said, "And you're an official?" He goes, "I just do this because I love the game." He said, "But I've read all the clinicals about you, and I wanted to come and meet you." So I get out of the hospital of the MD Anderson. The first time I get out, and I'm going to talk about a few guys, we stop at Buc-ee's on the way home. We always stopped at Buc-ee's. Well, I pass out. I got where I was passing out. I broke all the bones in my face right after I got out of the hospital. A guy comes, and Debbie, my wife's outside getting gas, and I try to walk in. I should have never done it. I knew when I got in what was fixing to happen. I just knocked all the peanut brittle down. And the guy's standing over me. When I come to, he won't let me up. Big old guy. I said, "I need to get in the restroom." So he picks me up, this man. People are just walking around me, stepping over me, right in the middle of Buc-ee's. I still remember that. This man's standing over me. He picks me up, and he starts carrying me in the restroom. Carried me. Now, I weighed down to 140 pounds, 6'2". He said, "Sir, I want to know one thing. Do you know Jesus Christ?" This is out of the blue. I said, "Yes, sir, I do. I know where I'm going when I die." He said, that's all I want to hear. This guy takes me in the restroom, takes me to the car after I get through in the restroom. I call him a Samaritan, good Samaritan, because people were walking around me, stepping around me. This guy stayed right there with me. And all these things start happening, and I start thinking, what was that supposed to be? He showed me how a Christian was really supposed to be. He showed me that. I had another friend that was I got very close to. One of my coach's brothers had cancer, got cancer. I was already fixing to have the transplant, so he wants me to call him and talk to him. I call him one night and talk to him for about 2 hours, and he helps me more than I help him. He's the most devout guy. Well, he's in Houston having brain cancer. Well, I'm having a transplant and going through all my deal. Well, they come in there and tell him he's gonna live. We think he's gonna live. WT, you're gonna die. You're gonna die. He's got 4 kids, 2 in elementary, 1 in junior high, and 1 in high school. Well, he ends up dying. I end up living. Greg calls me just 2 days before he died. Says, hey, you need to call Doug. So I call him. He could hardly talk, and the way he would talk, he would always end the conversations. That's what I tell people all the time when I talk to them. The last thing he would always tell me, he said, keep your eyes on the cross, brother. Keep your eyes on the cross. And here was this man, knew he was dying. Very painful. Never wavered. Unbelievable. That's why I pray every day, Father, let me do this the right way. Father, give me the strength that you gave Doug. And that killed me when he died. It bothered me. I could not get, why, Lord, take me. Don't take him. He's got kids. He's a better guy than I am. Take me. Why did you take him? Things we're not going to understand. Guys, and I tell you, people, kids, this, just because you're Christian, you're not going to understand. My youngest son, he's a thinker, deep thinker. And he knew I was upset about this, and we were talking one day. He said, Dad, I think the Lord had a reason for this. The Lord was to let him show people how to live till you die. And that's what Doug did. The last thing he told me is, WT, keep your eyes on the cross, brother. That's what I tell people. I've got some friends now that are in bad health. The last thing I tell them, keep your eyes on the cross, brother. Keep your eyes on the cross. Can you trust the Lord in a storm? Can you lie to yourself? When it really gets to a tough time, can you turn everything over to the Father? That sounds easy to do, but can you do it? People have a hard time because here's what they're going to do. I do not need you in my life. I do not need you to control me. I don't need you to control my life. Can you do that? It's going to come to a time you're going to have to, or you're going to eat yourself up. You're not going to know what to do. My peace I have comes from the Lord. It took me a long time to understand that. It took me a long time to understand that. But that's when I told you a while ago, He created you to have fellowship with you. That is the ultimate reason He created you. So you will have peace in this life, peace to understand, and just come and ask Him for the peace. Come and talk to Him. That's why He created you. That's why He created you. I had another deal during this time. I think everything was happening for a reason. But right before the transplant, my dad was dying. And they called me and said, WT, you need to come. They live in Oklahoma. He's probably got 2 or 3 days left. You need to come. Well, when you're on a transplant list, you can only go so many hours from the hospital. I could only be 4 hours from Houston. And it had been 14 months almost So I called, I said, I need to go see my father. He's fixing to die. They said, Coach, said, you can go, but if we call you, you're off the list. And I didn't have much time. When you have a transplant, you've got to be in a window. You can't go past it, or it's too late, and they don't want you too far into it. Now, I was in that window. I was getting to the end of the window. They said, Coach, you can go, but if we call you, you're off the list. I said, well, I can't go. So about 7:30 the next morning, my youngest son, gets up and said, let's go see Grandpa. So we drove 7 hours that day, 7.5 hours. And the whole way I was praying, I knew there was a reason I was supposed to go. We get there, and the doctor my cousin comes in and said, he said, we want you to tell your dad he's fixing to die. They hadn't told him. We want you to be the one to tell him. I knew there was a reason I was supposed to go. But I prayed the whole way. Well, this is the man that never took me to church. My dad was 6'4", 270. Died at 82, and the last day of his life, you could still strike a match on his hand. He was a rough old guy. He was the kind of guy, he would give the shirt off his back to you, and if he wanted it back, he would take it. He was as good as gold, or he was mean as coal. That was my father. Now, I knew there was a reason for me to go. So we get there, and I have to tell my father he's fixing to die. Cancer has ate him up. That was tough. But the other thing I got to do, I knew the Lord had been leading me to do this. Me and my father and my son and my mother prayed on his bed, and he received the Lord. I knew there was some reason for 7.5 hours I had prayed. I spent 2 hours with my father. I drove 15 hours to spend 2 hours. It was the best 2 hours I ever spent with my father. My father was my best friend. We hunted and fished my whole life. We never talked about the Lord. I had the Lord come in my life long before he died. Why did I not talk to him about the Lord? I can't imagine dying at 82 years old and living that long without the Lord in your life. Can you? Why is it easier for us to talk to a stranger? I don't know you. Why is it easier for us to talk to a stranger about the Lord than it is our own family? I don't understand that, but it's the truth. And it came to that time where I only had so many hours left to talk to him. It had been haunting me for a long time to talk to my father about the Lord. And I was scared to. I didn't know how he'd react. And then this other guy that's got cancer dies, painful death. He's telling me, keep your eyes on the cross, brother. Showing me how to die. Live till you die. That's a Christian. That guy was a Christian. The guy that picked me up and carried me that day was a Christian. It didn't matter what all those other hundreds of people were walking around me. He showed me what it was to be a Christian. I have another little deal that happened while I was in the hospital, and people kind of look at me funny on this one. I know what it was. I'm not ashamed of it. My wife, she was always they'd say they'd never seen anybody take care of the family member like my wife took care of me. They said they'd never seen that. All you young guys back there that aren't married, I always tell people this. Pick you a woman that you can trust when times are bad and chips are down. Now, I've been with her since I was 15. That's a long time. Been best friends since we were 15. She's my best friend. Pick you somebody that you can trust, and when times are tough, is going to stick with you. I always tell little girls when I talk to the group of kids, you pick you a man that's going to put you on a pedestal and treat you like you should be treated. And if they don't do that, get away from them, because they ain't going to change. It's going to get worse. But they had never seen anybody take care of her, somebody like she took care of me. She'd had to do everything for me, get me up, do everything. I could not walk. So I would ask her. There was always this old black man that would come and see me every day in the hospital when I was after the point when I was supposed to die. And I would be sitting up in my bed every day, and he would come in. He was an old black man. And people say, I'll get to that in a minute. And he was always dressed the same way. He always had a tan shirt on, long sleeve button-up shirt, tan slacks on, nice polished shoes. And he was always smiling. He would come in, and I just would remember, this is about May, I start remembering all this. Because so much of that time I forgot. And so I'd ask my wife, I said, do you remember no black man that would come and see me every day? She goes, no. She said, but you're always talking either to the boys or your players. She said, there's always somebody else you were talking to. And I'd get to remember, and my buddy and Coach Ennis, I said, Jack, do you remember me talking to the black man being in my room? He said, no, but you used to ask me about that. He would come in, I start remembering more. He would come in, and I'd go, hey, where you been? He was always smiling. Where you been? Been making my rounds, son, making my rounds. That's what he would tell me. I've been making my rounds. And so I told my wife, this guy's been making his rounds. So she thought when he was she was down there upstairs eating or back at the apartment getting cleaned up. That's when he was coming in. So she goes and asks the people in the hospital, hey, is there no black man that come and see my husband? And he would always talk to me. He'd sit down and talk to me. And it'd always end up, WT, you're going to be fine. You're going to live. Quit worrying. Don't worry. Quit worrying about this. You're going to be fine. And he'd always say, making my rounds. So, I remember more, and so Debbie comes and asks, there was never anybody coming in to see you, WT. But in my mind, I know it was as real as me, you sitting here talking. It was just like me and you sitting here talking. Now, I coach a lot of black kids. And I'd stop practice when I came back, and I told them this story. And they're all just looking. I said, well, who y'all think it was? He said, Coach, that was God. That was God. I said, y'all say it's God because he's black. I said, I think it was an angel. I do believe that to this day. I know it was. It's just as real, and I can't wait to see him again. Now, the things I remembered about this man that came to me, I was wanting to see him every day. I could not wait till he showed up. I would be sitting up in my bed. I did not want him to leave, because he would tell me, I've got to go. I would beg him, please don't go. And the other thing, I wanted to go with him. Have you ever met somebody in your life, it could be a grandfather you remember or grandmother, that was so special you always wanted to be around them? That was this guy. And it was just like me and you sitting here talking. I wanted to see him every day. I did not want him to leave me, and I wanted to go with him. That's where a lot of my peace comes from, right there. When they told me 2 months ago, WT, you got two, we don't know how long you got, I'm waiting to see him. I know he's going to be waiting for me. And I've told people this, so why do you think he's a black guy? You're white. I said, that's something we put in our mind. That's the things we put in our mind. I tell kids this all the time. I tell people this. A lot of people have, some black people have a hard time coaching white kids. Some white people have a hard time coaching black kids. I've never had that problem. because I was one of the only whites that played in my school. Where I grew up. I always go back to this story when I was in the 7th grade. And I still remember, this is in the early 70s. And I still remember this. We called timeout during a football game. And he had bottles that the black guys drank out of and bottles that the white guys. I still remember that. You young guys can't believe that. It's a different world now. And I just go over and get a drink from this black guy. He had to buy us a drink. And they all look, and they're like, what are you doing? The white guys, what are you doing? I'm thirsty. That's all I knew, was I was thirsty. I didn't care. I got saved when I was 36. I went down to the altar, and I told the Lord, Lord, I'm thirsty. It's no different. Lord, I'm thirsty. I need you. I need what you can give me that nobody else can give me. I'm thirsty. I still remember that from my 7th grade to when I was 36. In my mind, I was thirsty. I was wanting something from the Lord. I tell kids all the time, I tell grown-ups that have a hard time with this. A white man can't see through a black man's eyes. A black man can't see through a white man's eyes. There's going to be differences. But if you try to look through God's eyes, there's no problems. When we try to look through our eyes, there's where the problems are. And when you try to look through that other man's eyes, you cannot do it. You haven't lived his life. He has not lived your life. But when you look through the eyes of the Lord, everything's fine. And that's one thing I always pray, Lord, let me see through your eyes what you would have me see. There's a lot of Caseys out there. There's Caseys in here today that struggle. Lord, I struggle with this. And that's always going to be that way. I think, Brother Russell, I think it's supposed to be that way. Nothing's going to be easy, but it does not have to be that way. That's the problem. It does not have to be that way. I've only got so many months left to live. And I'm good with it. I'm happy. I tell people that all the time. I don't want to die, but I'm at peace. And what I want people to get when I talk to them or when they see me is the peace I have from this. I go talk and people say, hey, you need to write a book. You need to. Well, at the state championship that week, you have to do a bunch of interviews. Well, I interviewed with about 10 people at one time, and 2 of them were Christians. The others were just announcers, and they didn't want to hear about that. But every time I talk, that's what I talk about. And they said, you're not talking about the game and all this? No, I'm going to talk to you about this other. Well, after the game, want to come to me and call me and said, hey, I'll write books. I want to write a book. I've already talked to my publisher, told them your story, we want to write this book. So I said, okay. I said, the thing I want to come out of this book is people see the peace I have and where I get it from, and maybe they will get something from it and learn it, what I've got. And that's why I came tonight to speak with y'all. I do believe it's time for Christians to say what you believe and to stand up for what you believe in our country. I believe if we do not, we're fixing to lose what we have. These pews are not full like they were when I was a kid. And it's getting worse. It's got to be you teaching your kids, and your kids have got to lead after we're gone. But who's going to tell them if we don't tell them? Who's going to tell them if we don't tell them? Brother Russ, I don't know, do you usually do an altar call, or what do you want to do? And